Everyone, welcome to Lackawanna County Arts and Culture Live. I'm Maureen McGuigan, Deputy Director of Arts and Culture for Lackawanna County, your host for this weekly program bringing arts and culture, history, and heritage right to your living rooms. I'm just loving the different forms of art and topics that we've been able to explore on the show, and this week is no difference. We're starting out with local percussionist Paul Scalese, who's going to be talking about and demonstrating an interesting percussion instrument called the Cajon, which is a box-like drum that has its origins in Peru. Then we're going to bring on Beth Birkhuser, just a wonderful artist who's done so much for our community. And she's going to be talking about the Hexagon Project, which has seen a lot of global success using the power of the arts for peace, healing, and building friendships. And then we're going to wind down the evening with local singer-songwriter Hludzik. So let's bring on Paul Scalese. So Paul, it's so glad to meet you. I'm saying that because you're one of the new artists that I've been so fortunate to meet through this project. So we hope we can do more things together. Yeah. And I just have to say your background looks heavenly. and that is not fake to our audience.
That's what we're going for here.
Yeah, that's one of the things I love about living here is northeastern PA and Lackawanna County is so beautiful. So. But we're not here to talk about that today as much as we love the outdoors. We're here to talk about your career as a percussionist. So why don't we start out with that? Well, first of all, you're going to be doing a really interesting demonstration today, and I don't want to take too much away from that but it's the Cajon, which is a percussion instrument I haven't heard of. So I'm excited about that. And you were saying that's really getting popular.
Yep. No, so it's a Peruvian instrument. Started out as an instrument that gained a lot of popularity with flamenco music and Latin music, but it gained popularity over the years. It started to be used in multiple styles, including rock, jazz, still in Latin genres, of course. But it's a nice little instrument. It's small and handy. Can't really see it that much here, but I'm sitting on it. So
well, that's why we're looking forward. I think this is great for our viewers to learn about that. But then let's step back a little bit and find out how you got involved in choosing percussion as your instruments.
Yeah, so I started drums when I was about 9 or 10 years old. I was in the 5th grade. And prior to that, I'd played viola in one of those different, little ensemble things, just to, start out with some sort of instrument. And it started out where you're learning about music in terms of the letters, and I was fine learning letters and just letters. And after our first performance, they said, "All right, now we're gonna switch on to like the next chapter, and we're gonna start teaching you actual notes." And for me, just looking at like physical notes that were like circles and different shapes, and they weren't letters, to me that was just so off-putting. So I'm like, I think I want out with this instrument. But shortly after that, I took up the drums just because I wanted to keep with music. I wanted something to hit, just to have fun. And 10 years later, I've still been practicing till this day. I've been playing with different musicians. I have the pleasures of playing with a lot of different people over the years. So it's become my favorite hobby now.
That's a great explanation. We love that. And I think that percussion is so hard because you have to have a certain sort of rhythm. I think that's without that.
Oral coordination, but it's become a very good hobby of mine. Very holistic sort of creative outlet for me. And the viola was, I guess that wasn't what I needed at that time in my life. But once I went from the strings to percussion, that's when I'm like, all right, I can hit stuff. I don't have to worry about notes as much. And that's, of course, how I was able to start with Latin percussion, start playing the Cajon amongst other instruments.
It's funny you said that. I think instruments do call to people. We had a woodwind, Anthony Fortuna on, woodwind player a few weeks ago. And he plays all kinds of instruments, but he was talking about how the oboe really spoke to him and he just fell in love with it. And that kind of became his favorite woodwind instrument. So I love that when people are drawn to certain instruments or art forms. So you've actually played a lot of styles of music when I was doing some research on your background, but right now you are in the Tumavich trio, which is a jazz trio. So let's talk about how jazz speaks to you and how did that trio form and why you enjoy playing jazz.
Yeah, so it's funny. So I mean, jazz was always one of those genres that I was, put off by for some reason. Whenever I'm practicing on my own, I'm usually a big rock and metal drummer. I like fast stuff. I like stuff that sort of, gets my heart pumping. It's just very energetic. But my grandparents were always big supporters of my music and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And they love jazz, and they always had jazz going around the house. They always had jazz playing in the car wherever we're going somewhere with each other. So eventually they said, Paul, like, we want you to start playing some jazz drums, because I had my drum set over their house. I was practicing, I was hanging out with them a lot. So to tie that into the Tomovich Trio, I started doing this jazz camp at Keystone College back in 2014. And I met a bunch of great musicians there, including the guitarist I'm in the band with. So the guitarist, Johnny, and I, we had a gig at Camelot up in Clark Summit for New Year's back in 2016. And we were supposed to play that with one of our friends who plays piano. It was supposed to be just a little trio gig, nothing special. But just a couple of days before the gig, the piano player wasn't able to make it anymore. So we're like, well, what do we do now? How are we going to play this gig? And we thought back to the camp that we'd played at. And we're like, oh, this Jonathan Hakis guy, he plays the bass. Maybe we can tap him, see if he's able to join us. And he was able to play. We had a great gig. It was a great time, nice 3-hour set for New Year's. And we all got back from our respective schools that year in 2017 for the summer. And we're like, hey, why don't we try to make something of it? So the three of us all got together, Johnny, John, and I, and we jammed. And we're like, oh, maybe we'll start reaching out to people. We started getting some gigs. We played First Friday Scranton a lot. We started getting our name out there. And 3 years later in 2020, we're still kicking it. So
that's great.
Obviously started, and we've been a great friend group ever since as well. Not only just music.
You never know how something that seems like kind of stressful can turn into like a great opportunity.
Yeah, it was a great blessing in disguise there.
Yeah. Now I know right now we're not allowed to go out and do events, but when we can come back, is there a way people can contact you guys if they would like you to play? Or
yeah, so we have a Facebook page, we have an Instagram page. All of our contact information is on the Facebook there. So, phone number, email, anything you need, but we are open to playing, anything, restaurants, coffee shops, weddings, and any events or something of the sort.
Well, hopefully we'll be able to do that soon in some form. I know outdoor dining has started, which is exciting. So,
Yep.
I have
we're eager to get back to it as everyone else is,
Yeah, I know our arts community. So we're doing online just because it's better than nothing. And it's a good way for people to get to meet new artists and learn about them so that hopefully they can support them both online and in the real world. Well, we want to get to this. I'm really looking forward to this, to learning about this really cool and powerful instrument. I did a little online. It's just so much fun, and it really puts you in a good mood. So
I'm excited to talk about it.
Thank you so much for joining us, and we again hope we can work together again. Looking forward to seeing your presentation. Thanks, Paul.
Of course. Thank you, Maureen. All right, so now I'm going to talk a little bit more about the instrument that Maureen and I were just discussing. So this instrument that I'm sitting on here is called the Cajon. It was produced in Peru over 100 years ago as a percussion instrument for Latin and flamenco styles. But as we talked about, since its inception, it's definitely evolved into something that serves as a purpose more than just that for those genres. I mean, nowadays this instrument is used in rock genres, it's used in jazz, still holds its purpose in Latin and flamenco. And ever since I've built this thing, I've been using this for a couple different purposes over the last few years. I've been using it across different genres, trying to experiment with it, see different ways and purposes I can use it. And it's a little fun little instrument. It has a purpose of a bass drum from a drum kit. You can hit it the way you would a conga. I mean, there's just a lot of different purposes you can use for, especially how portable it is. So let me give you guys a little look about this instrument. As you can see, it's a wooden box, nothing too special. On the back has this resonator hole. And since I made a couple of these myself back in high school, I carved into it with a CNC machine. It says Paul Scalese Signature Series. But that resonator hole right there, it's 4 inches wide, and it's about the same width as the one on a guitar. And it's a resonator hole that has the same purpose. The way you play this instrument is you literally hit it on this front plate here, or wherever you want to hit it. All the different sides of the instrument produce different sounds. But you hit the instrument, and just the way on a guitar would, it helps. On a guitar, the strings will resonate out of that resonator hole. In the same manner, once you hit the drum here, it helps the sound resonate a lot better. With the guitar, if you were to have an acoustic guitar and you strung the strings, you pluck the strings, whatever, it would be a very dull sound without that resonator hole. Same thing with this. Imagine hitting a hollow box, but there's no hole. You kind of just have a dull sound. There's not a lot of resonance to the sound once you get it out of it. So this hole definitely serves its purpose. In terms of the anatomy of the instrument, furthermore, when I was constructing it, I was experimenting with a lot of different types of wood, and it was my first time doing a project like this. I never built an instrument before, and it was about 3 or 4 years ago, and I didn't know what types of wood to use. So there was definitely a lot of trial and error. But what I ended up doing was using about 1/2-inch thick birch plywood on the front, the sides, and the bottom. So I was sort of to make this frame of it. And then on the front and the back sides, I use mahogany. The front side is called the Tapa, T-A-P-A, and that was about 1.5 millimeters thick. And then the back side is 4 millimeters thick. And like I said, there's a lot of trial and error with this. I used these little screws, but you can see them here, to drill this in. But I had to try drilling these plates in multiple times, because at first I used 4 millimeter thick plywood on the front, or 6 millimeter thick plywood on the back. And I just found that the sound I was looking for out of this instrument just wasn't what I was looking for. So there's a lot, like I said, a lot of trial and error. And the final product ended up where I was using the 1/2-inch birch plywood for the 4 sides of it, the frame, and then the 1.5 millimeter on the top, and the 4 millimeter on the back. And that ended up being the sound I was looking for. And I produced a couple of these instruments, all with varying sizes. I believe this one is 11 by 11 by 16 down in the depth. So it's a square on the top, but obviously you need enough room to sit on it comfortably, so you're not slouched down or really bending your knees that much. So 16 inches was a good height for that, 14. And then 11 by 11 on the frame of it. But in terms of the instrument, how it sounds, the sound that it makes, how it's produced like that, it's sort of a crossover between a conga, which I have here, and then a snare drum, which obviously has, wires in it, has that snare drum sound. It's known as the backbeat of a drum kit. And what I did with this instrument particularly was I saw models that would have these adjustable snares. And this one here, you can see this little lever here. It actually adjusts. So regular Cajons, if they don't have this, they always have the snares on. So I'm gonna initiate the snares like that, the wires. And you can hear that wire sound. It's sort of a mix of a conga and a mix of a snare right there. If I take the snare wires off, full conga sound, but it's a deeper one. Now, as you can see here, I'm actually hitting different zones of the faceplate. The way I see it, there's 4 different zones. There's these very front portions here that you almost have to slap with your fingertips. There's this top part here. There's the midsection, and then there's the low end. I see the low end as like the bass drum on a bass kit. So you can hear that. Very low end, very dry sound to it. Not a lot of attack. It runs off immediately. This midsection here is the most resembling like a drum. A lot of nice sound to it, very, very full, very colorful. And then with the snare drum part, this is where I put, if I'm going to be using it for a particular function where I need a snare, I'm going to hit the top like this. It sounds just like a snare. And then if I want to put some accents, like I said, I separate these 2 zones as like the A zone, the B zone here. So this is the snare, whereas these are the accents. So you have the bass, the midsection, the snare, and the accents. I do have a lot of accessories for this instrument, and while it's just a simple box drum, there's a couple things I like to use for it that make it more handy, more portable for me. So what I'm sitting on here is a Latin percussion Cajon throne, and it literally is just what it looks like. Just a little cushion that you put on it, makes your butt feel a little more comfortable while you're sitting on it. Because I've done some gigs and stuff before where I'll be sitting on this thing without the seat on, and it's very sharp on the edges here. So eventually, like the bottom part of my thigh, if I'm playing for hours on end, these start to kill. Like I get really numb there. It just doesn't feel good at all, and you don't even want to be playing anymore. That's where this little seat comes in. Makes it feel nice and comfy. I also have this little thing, which is probably one of my best investments. It's a Chroma reverse bass drum pedal, and you can use this either on regular kick drum for your drum kit or Cajon. And for me, this has saved me lots of time, lots of energy, because like we talked about with my with my jazz band, the Tomovich Trio, I'm usually playing mostly jazz gigs. I rarely play rock gigs as much as I'd love to. I mostly play jazz. And for the jazz genre, you don't really need to be lugging around, you know, a big 20 or 22-inch bass drum. As much as I would love to have that, that takes up a lot of space, takes up a lot of energy. Room in your car, that's a big one for me because I don't drive a big car. So being able to sort of carry this around, it serves as my bass drum. So if you look at the pedal here, I literally just kick the pedal, it has this reverse function right here. And for me, it serves as the bass drum. Take the snares off. Definitely serves a purpose as a bass drum there. Because it gets rid of having to carry around a drum throne. I don't have to carry around a seat with me at all. This serves as a seat, but at the same time, I'm also using it as my bass drum. So I'll have my rig, usually my rig nowadays, I'll be sitting on this thing. I'll have a hi-hat, ride, crash optional, a snare in front of me, because I don't like to use this as both the snare and the bass drum. If I'm going to use it as the bass drum, I need to have the snare wires off. So if the snare in front of me, use that, and then, you know, a tom or two. But it's a very abbreviated kit. It's very portable. And because I'm not putting in my big 22-inch bass drum in the back of my car, I'm usually able to afford all the space I need just to put, you know, this in my car, and then along with my cymbals, my drums, and I don't even need to put anything in my trunk or front seat. Everything just fits in the back, all my hardware and everything. So this pedal here, definitely a great investment. Probably my favorite accessory for the kit, for the Cajon. And also, I like to use brushes sometimes. Like I said, it's not meant to, or was not invented to be a jazz instrument. It was invented to be hit. But at the same time, I like to get creative with it. So if I was ever playing a jazz gig where, you know, say I was at a coffee shop or something like that, where things are really tightly packed, and I don't have a lot of room, or even if there's no rug to put a drum kit, I'm like, well, geez, what am I going to do? Because I have, you know, the bass player who needs his big amp and everything, and it's, you know, one of those big octa basses, one of those big double basses that takes up a lot of room. The guitar player needs room for his sheet music and for his amp and stuff like that. And then along with that, if you have a drummer who's going to have this big kit set up, I mean, you have a very limited amount of space. So in certain circumstances, like I said, if I'm playing, you know, a coffee shop or like a sidewalk gig for a little outdoor event or something like that, the Cajon does just fine. Because if I'm playing jazz, if I get rid of this pedal here, I can whip out these brushes the same way you would in a snare drum. And just one thing I've also noticed is that these wires on the brushes here make a lot of difference. Because if you're striking the head of the plate with this side, you get a very sharp sound, and you get a lot of attack there. Imagine like nails on a chalkboard. If you're going to just rub your nails across it, it's going to create like a biting sound, you know, very sharp. It's, I don't want to say unpleasant, but there's the dynamics there's a lot to work with the dynamics there, as opposed to if you rub it like that, where you have almost the whole side of the wires brushing against it there, it just glides, and it makes it a lot easier, and it gives you a lot more to play with. So if I'm going to be doing different jazz stuff, I might use those to my advantage. I might accent the Cajon, accent the brushes where I create different sounds, where I'm using both parts of the wire. Let me show you a little bit of that. This is if you have just the tips of the wires touching the snare. Very, very brushy, sharp kind of sound. Nails on a chalkboard kind of thing. And then if you're gliding it with the sides, it's like you don't hear it. It's almost like if you see a jazz drummer use brushes on his snare drum on a drum kit, it's very glidey, and it doesn't make it so that you hear the drums all that much, and the drums don't become the focal point. But on a certain jazz ballad, it almost makes it so that the drums are sort of the background, but they supplement the music well enough where they can, you know, make their presence known. It's very easygoing sort of tune, easygoing rhythm, as opposed to, like I said, this. If you're playing a simple little jazz ballad where you're using the sides, use that as an accent. up. Yeah, so that's the accessories I use at the Cajon. The last one is, I did this myself. I took a little Tree Works from Nashville wind chime. I put a little hook and loop Velcro on the back of it. Put a little Velcro on the side of the Cajon here. And if we were playing with it, if I ever need some more colors from the sound, depending on what the style is, I'll put this little thing right there. It doesn't come off very easily because it's Velcro. And I might have, one hand or two hands going, playing a rhythm. And that's just another thing you can do with that. I mean, like I said, it's not meant to be a one-size-fits-all instrument, but in terms of how portable it is, I think there's a lot you can do with it. Sometimes I'll put a foot pedal with either a tambourine on it or a cowbell on it, or even if I'm using, like I said, if I'm using this as a bass drum with a regular drum kit, I'll be playing, everything I got. I'll be playing, whatever I'm doing with the hands, the snares and the cymbals. I'll be playing the Cajon with the bass drum pedal because that's my right foot. But then if I'm not doing the hi-hat or something, or say I want to switch it up from using the hi-hat with my left foot, I'll do a little cowbell action there. I'll do a little tambourine, just something to give it a little spice to it. But I think that's the allure of this instrument, is that it's portable and it's sort of meant to bring out the creativity in artists if they want to try to see if they want to make a less is more sort of sound with their instrument. That approach has always been one of my favorites. And like I said, with Marine, I'm a big rock and metal guy. So if I'm practicing at home, I deal a lot with big kits. I sometimes have 3-4 toms right in front of me. I have the double bass pedals going. I like it loud and energized, and I think there's a lot of fun you can have playing with big kits like that. But at the same time, sometimes I like to challenge myself with a kit like this. It's like, oh, I'm going to be going on a jazz gig. What can I do this time to make this sound cooler or better? So that's why I like switching little things in and out. I mean, I might not always have the cowbell in there. I might not always have the tambourine in there, but it's about making the most of the situation. Over Christmas, I played a couple different gigs for Christmas jazz. I remember one time I was thinking, wouldn't it be cool if I can use some sort of jingle bells? And I was ready to go online and order regular jingle bells, the string looking thing of bells. I'm like, wait a minute, why don't I just attach the tambourine to it? So for most of those gigs, I wouldn't even use the hi-hat on my left foot. I mean, I'll use it if I really need some good accentuation for the tunes I was playing. But most of the time, if I was playing jingle bells or something, instead of stomping on the left foot for the hi-hat with my left foot, I would stomp on the tambourine attached to a foot pedal. And that would make it just sound very holistic and creative. It really brings up the festivity in it because, it's Christmas, you want to hear bells. And quite frankly, that was what I thought I could do to supplement my creativity to the music and make it sounding cool. So it's different stuff like that I think makes this instrument portable, fun, but like I said, also brings out the best in some musicians. So that's the instrument. I'm going to show you guys a couple grooves that you can play on now because, like I was talking about, I think one of the best parts about this instrument is that it can serve an array of different genres. And like I said, Latin's where it got its roots, but there's no reason why, as a musician, I can't put it in a jazz context. I can't put it in a rock context. So there's a lot of different things I can do with this. So let me start out by showing you guys a basic Bossa Nova. The clave for this is, beats on the foot. That's the clave that you have going with the bass, mostly. If you're playing a full drum kit, you want that clave going on the right foot for your bass drum. But if I'm playing the entire thing on the Cajon, it'll sound something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. If I had a little snares, I can adjust the snare, put a little groove onto that. That is a simple Latin groove that I play a lot because it's a Latin crossover between being able to play Latin, being able to play jazz. And if I'm playing on a jazz gig, I'll be playing stuff like Song for My Father, Black Orpheus, different Latin tunes like that are, you know, are said to be Latin, but you know, they're Latin jazz tunes at the same time. They wouldn't really be off-putting in a jazz gig. And like I said with the Christmas thing, if we're playing Feliz Navidad, I'll play an exact rhythm like I just did there, but it's jazz, but it's also Latin, and it works on the instrument like that. So let me show you guys a rock groove. It's not even, there's really no name for the groove, but just a simple, what they call the two beat, you know, two feel. And I've used this on acoustic gigs. I'm playing with just myself and an acoustic guitar. This is something that works. Time. So that's a rock rhythm there that you can use with that. I already showed you a little bit, but I'll show you again. I'll show you how to use brushes on it. If you're looking to do not necessarily a Latin jazz thing where you're playing a Bossa Nova or a samba or something like that, but if you're looking to play a straight jazz swing, like any standard tune that you'd hear on an old Miles Davis record, or you know, just typical bebop swing that you think of. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's in 4/4 time signature. If you're doing a jazz waltz in 3/4, 3 beats per measure, it would just be, you know, the same thing, but different time. So those are 2 jazz grooves, and then I think I'll end with a calypso, because that's something that you can use, like I said, in jazz, but it's an Afro-Cuban type of rhythm, and you can use that on just about anything. You can use it in rock grooves, you can use it in jazz. I mean, songs like St. Thomas is a calypso groove, and like I said, you can use it on anything, but this is one that definitely is derived from the Spanish, big Latin groove, so I'll take the snares off for this. And we're talking about clave, so the beats 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's a calypso, and that's the Cajon instrument. So hope everyone enjoyed. Hope everyone learned something valuable. If you didn't know about this instrument before, definitely check it out. It's going to be, I think, on the rise, gaining popularity in a lot of different genres. So thanks for watching. Hope everyone enjoyed.
Well, welcome, Beth. It's so great to have you on the show. This is Beth Birkhuser, everybody, director of the Hexagon Project, with many other hats throughout her illustrious art career. So we're thrilled to have you here. I've known you a long time, and you've done so much good work in our community with education and bringing art to the people and involving people in the arts, which is what you're going to talk about today, this amazing global project, as you have the People's Project up there. That's really been a core value of yours. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey as an educator and how it's changed and evolved? I think is a word I've heard you use.
Hi, Maureen. Hi, everybody. I'm very happy to be here and be invited to be a part of Lackawanna Live. Yes, well, many people may know that I've been an art educator and an artist for many, many years, over 45 years, actually, between public school teaching and teaching at Keystone College, art education. And my focus has always been to integrate the arts into curriculum, to always make connections. That's what I've done for 45 plus years. And as I retired, I continued to do that by becoming a part of the interdependence movement that was started by Sandra Myers and Dr. Benjamin Barber in 2003. So it's all about making connections. It's about connecting one's art to issues that are of importance to you, of a social justice nature. They can be human rights, children's rights, women's rights, environmental concerns. And the whole idea, and we're hearing more and more about this all the time these days, is that we're all interconnected and we all have certain rights, but we also have responsibilities. And that's what this project is about. And I'll show a short video soon that explains the Hexagon Project a little bit more. But yeah, most of my art and my teaching has involved making connections in some way to the things that are important to you as an artist. And that's what artists do. It's not just all about making pretty pictures. It's about putting yourself into that picture, and the way you can do it in your own unique way that communicates to others what you're thinking, what you believe, what you're concerned about. So I do consider myself in the realm of social justice, art education.
Yeah, it's so important it's always been important, but especially now as we're changing in the 21st century and we're having important dialogues around issues that maybe haven't been explored in depth before. And I know you and I have talked about, I'm sure you've seen a lot of this if you want to share a story. Sometimes people don't think they're an artist or they don't think they're creative, and it takes a little coaxing, but then when they do it, there's just this enormous transformation. So have you seen that a lot throughout your career?
Oh, most definitely. It just takes a little bit of giving prompts, which I'm going to try to give to you today, that might make your art making easier, might spark an idea in your head that you say, oh, I want to do this. And it's not that threatening. I'm hoping that I'll show you some ways that you could do something that you could just create and make a statement and share it, because that's the important thing. And our social media offers us the opportunity to do sharing. And I'm going to invite you to become a part of an Instagram project that we've, an alternative to what we normally do within the community. So we've always participated in your Lackawanna County arts projects and any things, in the fall, the spring, and the summer. We're there making hexagons with people, encouraging them and making it fun, and also making it purposeful.
Yeah, that's so well said and a good intro. I'm so happy that we can educate people more in our community if they're not aware of this great project. Love your background, and you have a nice necklace. I wish I had that background for my Zoom meetings.
I always have my hexagons on.
Yeah, you look great, but we're looking forward to seeing this and being able to bring that to our viewers. So I'm going to jump out and put you in the main screen, and looking forward to seeing your presentation.
All right, very good. So here I am. All right, I'm going to start by just giving you a little video introduction to the Hexagon Project, and then I'll jump back in, and I have a PowerPoint that I want to share, and invite you to become involved in the Hexagon Project. So here we go. Can you still hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good. But I'm going to show the video now, I think. Here we go.
Hello, I'm Beth Birkhuser, founder and director of the Interdependence Hexagon Project, an arts and education program organized in 2006 here in Scranton. We are an all-volunteer organization. Every dollar we raise is used directly for the project, its programs and participants, locally, nationally, and internationally. We use the infinitely interlinking shape of a hexagon as a metaphor for interconnectedness and interdependence. Many participants hold their own school-wide and regional exhibits. This has been my heart's work since 2006. Over 10,000 hexagons have been created worldwide by students and communities. They demonstrate understanding of the issues that confront and connect us. We provide year-long online educational materials, links, and resources on social justice and the environment. Along with the schools, the Hexagon Project connects people with important causes, such as Riverfest, and honors and welcomes the diversity within our communities, such as World Refugee Day. We call this dimension of the Hexagon Project the People's Project. At this extraordinary time of COVID-19, we have experienced an indispensable need to draw together while practicing physical distancing. Thus, our Instagram project and our space on artsonia.com. So now, let's walk you through some ways that you and anyone from the ages of, 2, 3, or 4 to 104 can participate in the People's Hexagon Project, even if you don't have your own Instagram account.
This is the People's Project, and I invite everyone to become involved. So let's find out more about this. So as I already told you that we do community events that unfortunately have all been canceled this year. So unless something crops up later in the summer, we're not going to be around. We participated in the summer community Lackawanna Artisan Market last summer, and we had the community create this mural, and it continued over to our show in September. September is Interdependence Month, and that was begun with the Interdependence movement, as I said before. That started in 2003, and we came on with the Hexagon Project in 2006. So every year, September, we have an exhibit, but we're not quite sure this year whether it will be happening or not. It depends on how many hexagons we have coming in. So yes, we've done that. And now, because of the limitations with about physical distancing, we're going to continue with our Instagram account. Now, I cannot see everything on my screen, so maybe I can get rid of that. Oh, very good. Okay. the thumbnails were blocking some of the text here that I wanted to share. I hope you can all see it. So there are actually two ways that you can participate in the Hexagon Project via Instagram and just by sending your hexagons to me. And the one way is the traditional way, as you can see from this photograph, you know, using paint, markers, scissors, glue, whatever you want to. And then there's the digital way. So I'm going to talk to you about the traditional way of making a hexagon. So you can go on our website, which is simply www.hexagonproject.org. And by the way, these instructions are on our website. So if you search for us, you'll find all of this there. So you download our template and paper registration form from our website. And I want to show you what those look like once we get back face to face. And you create your hexagon on that template or any support using any art materials, including collage, photographs, newspapers, magazines, and you can even make it three-dimensional. So the sky's the limit. Just stay inside of a hexagon shape. That's all you need to do. Then photograph it on a contrasting background, and you know, on hexagon, mention where you live if you'd like to, or just send the image to me at beth@hexagonproject.org. We'll publish it on our Instagram page, and we'll collect it and create some sort of a presentation for September with your artwork involved. Don't forget to use the hashtags if you're doing this on your own hexagon, own Instagram. The hashtags are there at the bottom, Hexagon Project 2020, or Hexagon Project, or the Hexagon Project, and our Instagram is at Interdependence Hexagon Project. So that's one way. And these are some examples of the actual real thing. The top left was from Nepal and created by a student there. And when there was close down of everything in Nepal, one of them, even beyond losing one's job, were people who depended on just being out every day, living day to day, picking up money, begging, whatever, doing odd jobs to bring home some kind of money and food to their families. So many countries outside of the United States are suffering from the fact that they're hungry. They don't have enough to keep them alive. The other examples are at the bottom left is something that I made, 2 hexagons, which contracted just the beginning of all the new vocabulary that we were hearing every day. Everything was so new and different. And then the other hexagon here about being with your family and learning and being closer and developing more acutely some of the positives of being together and sharing and caring. And of course, there's stress involved in being together too. So that's another whole thing. And the one on the right, the blue one, is by my grandson, who said, now that we're home, I'm the official cloud watcher for the family. He's 5 years old. And he did a painting of himself lying down, watching clouds. And that cloud showed a hand with 6 fingers. So there's many, many variations to this project. As I said, using all art materials, any art materials, and don't forget to use our hashtag. We would love to have you participate in this, and we'd love to see what you have to say. Again, a reminder. Or send them to me at hexagonproject.org. Then you can use a combination, which is something I like to do. I like to use a combination of getting my camera and taking photographs. And then I also use magazine and newspaper clippings. And I just put some of them together. So you can see that here's the rectangle that I've created by just tearing and cutting some newspapers. putting them on a background of nature, because nature doesn't follow the virus as much. Spring came, and we couldn't stop it. It was wonderful to see. So I have my template here, and I just trace and crop my rectangle. And here you see the finished hexagon with nature and with some of the literature that we see from the news, and what I feel is important to be aware of and sharing. So that's one way of doing the Hexagon Project, is the physical way. The second way is to just create photographs on your camera on your smartphone, and then use a program. Now we suggest, and the directions are also on our website. We've used Canva, which is an app. I have to tell you that it might be easier to use it on your laptop than on your phone, but it's possible. And what you do is, I have the steps here. You create an image using the Instagram template, which they have for you. You go to Elements from the menu along the left edge of the interface, and then you go to Frames, not Shapes, but you go to Frames and scroll down until you find a hexagon frame. And then you pick the frame, you position it, you can rotate it if you want the points to the top. And then you select Uploads and upload your image. You can add text to it. This was made by one of our board members, Dee Dee Turstig. She sent me the photograph, and I just added the text to it. And then you could actually add a background if you would like, download it as a JPEG, and publish it. So that's the way you can do it. You can download it, you can publish it, you can use it for whatever you would like to use it for. So that's a quick and easy way to crop down a hexagon. And I'll show you a couple things that have been coming in. A high school student from Philadelphia, grade 12, created the one on the left. Now, I think he was in a digital class, and I'm in touch with Bob LaJoy, who's an art teacher in Philadelphia, and he had his students create this remotely using, I think, Photoshop. I think this is a very, very nice, wonderful commentary about what's happening now. And on the right is my commentary from last week with my grandson. He graduated from preschool in his car, and that's him sitting in his car after his mom and he walked up and with masks on, and received a certificate and a little gift bag. And so that's, to me, what the status, the way things are right now with what we're experiencing. So now I also wanted to talk about some of the things that might be good prompts or good ideas to think about if you desire to make a hexagon. And so this is just a few brainstorming ideas. This is how to take care of yourself, or whether you are taking care of yourself. The hexagon on the right was, again, created by a student from Nepal, and it's been divided, and it's a pretty powerful piece. And you could do the same thing. You could divide it in half and talk about the negatives, the positives, where you are now, where you would like to be. So you could think about doing that. Be kind to yourself. That was one thing that is important. Just accept the negatives along with the positives. Manage your feelings. And so I feel that the Hexagon Project is a way that you help to manage your feelings in many aspects of what we're experiencing right now. So I put make art in uppercase letters, but there's many other ways to help relieve your stress by exercising or yoga. but be realistic, lower your expectations. If you're working and you wanted to do so much more, but you can't, you're limited by technology, you can just prioritize what you think is most important. What is most important? What are your priorities at this time? Making the best of every situation, finding simple things that you can control, and not gigantic things that might feel like they're out of control. Keep your routines. I have to say that I've been snacking a lot more lately, and I have to think about how I'm going to, be online and not putting chips in my mouth. Go to reliable sources for your facts, and don't try to rely on too many. And also limit your social media addiction, which is very, very easy to get totally swept away by. And I experienced that very much myself. So those are some things that might prompt you to respond in some way. Let us know what you're thinking. That's what we want you to do. Let us know what you're thinking and connect via the metaphor of the hexagon. The other aspects of this time that we're in, dealing with our current situation with George Floyd and our protests and our feelings. And so I think that many hexagons have been made in the past dealing with race. And there's an example up there by a high school student using photography, and an example by a third grader using drawing. And that's a collaborative piece, by the way. So three people got together, and we'd love to see a collaborative piece too. That's all part of the same thing. And so these are some prompts for thinking about, and this is from a website called democracy.org, Everyday Democracy, Facing Racism in a Diverse Nation. This is about how we can peacefully make transitions, how we can create change. And so perhaps asking yourself some of these questions, have you done any of these things, or would you desire to do any of those things? So create a hexagon about what is important right now to you. Focus on institutions. Do you see that you could make changes? Can you speak up in any of the institutions that you are connected with? Focus on leadership, developing leaders who reflect the racial, ethnic, and cultural makeup of the community. And one thing I'd like to put in capital letters there is VOTE, vote. So that can be a big, big issue, and we'd like to hear what you have to say about that. Focus on laws, enforcing the anti-discrimination laws, changing unfair community policies if you see them. Focus on relationships, bringing people together. That's what Lackawanna Live is doing right now in the face of not being able to be there face to face. We're bringing people together to share their artistic talents and their messages. Focus on community impact. Before we start new projects, I think it's very important to make sure that they're inclusive and not exclusive. That's something that I need to always think about as a person of privilege. Where are people being left out? Focus on economics, creating economic success for people from all racial, ethnic, and cultural backgrounds, and focusing on self-reliance. There's nothing better than encouraging people to be true to their own self, and encouraging their self-reliance, encouraging the ability to be confident in your own talents and abilities to make a difference in the world, and to have an important career track for yourself. And then finally, I just thought that this would be a very interesting thing to do. Think about the kind of community that we want to have. Imagine it's 10 years hence. Imagine the racial or ethnic makeup of our community, and picture how we will interact with each other. Picture the chances for success people will have. What do you hope might be different in our community in the future? And what do you hope might still be the same? What are the positives about our community that we don't want to see changing? And then as you imagine, look at these simple words or add your own. Build a hexagon, build a statement about one of these words. And I think that would be a beautiful, beautiful way of expressing your feelings and thoughts at this time. So choose, and we would love to see what you have to say. Our website is hexagonproject.org. Our Instagram is at Interdependence Hexagon Project. Please use those hashtags. Our Facebook page, which you're welcome to interact with, and our email images to me at beth@hexagonproject.org. So I'm going to stop my screen sharing right now and get back to Maureen. And I think I didn't mention that there could be some deadlines here of if you're a teacher, and I didn't mention this at all, but if you're a teacher, we're trying to get the students' artwork by June 30th. School is almost over, so that's why I'm focusing on the People's Project, but all artwork from students by June 30th. We will have a jurying. We will have, even if it's all online, and we will get back in touch. The other thing I wanted to say was, we have our, you can download the template. This is the template, and a paper registration form, which you can fill out. And if you send us a hexagon, send your hexagon along with this particular form filled out, so that we have your contact information and know something about you. So we'd like to do that. And I think right now that's just about all that I'm sharing. And I hope that all goes well. And I'm excited that I've had the opportunity to invite people.
I love that there's an interactive piece, because as we're sitting home and even as we go out in the real world, not in the same way that we can, I think it's a good reminder that, things are bad in a lot of ways, but there's always that hopeful power of creativity with art, but also just in the way we think about things and experience the world. It's been great to see all the ways art is adapting, the way people are adapting. I think you're right. Our reconnection to nature has been great. And I think you had a lot of wonderful tips. And I love that you're giving our audience an opportunity to put maybe some of that anxiety into a positive project instead of eating chips, which I have also been guilty of. So thank you, Beth. I think that was really uplifting. So yeah, we hope if you're participating in the project that you keep us, you can post on our page and our Facebook page, and maybe we can reconnect in a few months and see who has responded. And I just encourage people to take part in this great project that has a global impact and a local and national impact. So that's really neat that it is like a map of hexagons, that we are all connected. So thank you so much. We hope to see you in the real world sooner than later, so we can do participate in some of your great projects that you've done in our county. We've always loved working with you and your team.
It's always a pleasure to be involved with our community. It's a wonderful community, and we're very fortunate to be part of it.
Well, thank you, Beth. We wish you the best. Stay safe, healthy, and creative until we meet again. And now we're going to bring on our last performer of the evening, singer-songwriter Chris Hludzik. But thanks again, Beth. Take care.
Yeah, thank you, Maureen.
Well, welcome, Chris. It's a pleasure to have you here on Lackawanna County Arts and Culture Live. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you, Maureen?
I'm doing good. So We're looking forward to hear you play, but just a couple of questions so our viewers can get to know you a little bit.
Sure.
How did you become a singer-songwriter?
Just a fan of music since I was a little kid. I grew up in a family that, my late parents were big music fans. So I grew up with music around the house all the time. And I just, when I was a teenager, I kind of decided, maybe I want to play, And I started teaching myself guitar. And I had been writing lyrics for a while, but I didn't know how to write music yet. So I kind of wrote these lyrics and I called them songs, even though they had no music. And then when I started playing guitar, I was like, well, maybe I should put some music to these songs, And that was pretty much how it started.
So I'm always interested in people's creative process. So for you, do the words come first and then the music, or is it kind of a mix of how you approach a song?
It's kind of a mix. Sometimes the music will come first, sometimes the lyrics will come first. Very rarely, though, they will come kind of together. I'll get like a melody, and then I'll get like a lyric or something that'll just kind of come together, and I'll be able to work off of that. But it's usually one or the other, I find.
And what are some of your musical influences? Have they changed over the years, or?
Not really. I mean, I tend to go towards the more like lyrical people. Like one of my favorite songwriters is a guy by the name of Ian Hunter, who was in a group called Mott the Hoople in the 70s. And he's had a really long solo career, and he's a brilliant songwriter, I think. I also like Billy Joel. I like Ben Folds. So just guys that, are really more the lyricists, Although a lot of people would consider Billy Joel and like Ben Folds more like piano players, but I think they're brilliant lyricists as well. But, I tend to go for the stuff that's a little more, I guess cerebral, for lack of a better word, But I like the stuff that's just pretty straight ahead, too, But I've always liked the stuff that's a little deeper, has a little more meaning.
Yeah, a lot of layers, and words can do that. I mean, that is interesting how you said you start off with just the words, because songs are poems and poems can be songs. That's the way sometimes it is as well. But then when you marry them together, I really admire that. I grew up writing poetry, but I've never thought about trying to put them to words, so I really put them to music.
That's how I started out too. Like I started out writing a lot of poetry when I was in like middle school and high school, and just kind of I started writing longer poems. And I started calling them songs, even though, like I said, I didn't have music, but that's pretty much what they were. They were just poems. They were like short stories, but not quite as long as a regular short story is. So it just kind of evolved from that.
And just one last question, because I think one of the themes that's been coming up talking to people and just seeing some of the crossover between artists and musicians, there seems to be a real spirit of collaboration here in Lackawanna County. And we had a fellow musician and friend of yours on one of our shows, Brian Wilder Brophy, and you guys are kind of collaborating on a project. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. It's actually a project that we had a long time ago. We did an album in 2006. Our project's called The Latter Day. And it's basically just kind of a blend of like all the types of music that we like, but we couldn't do in our own projects. At the time, Brian was kind of like a screamo pop punk band, and but he also liked classic rock and like folkier kind of stuff. And I was in kind of like a more straightforward kind of doing rock stuff, but I also liked some of the more folkier kind of classic rock kind of stuff. So it was just kind of a chance for us to spread our wings and just do something different. And it was a chance for us to use a lot of material that we had that we couldn't use in our own projects. And we kind of find ourselves in that situation now. And we've just gotten back together recently to work on the stuff, and since the quarantine. And Brian's been coming to me with a lot of stuff. I've been coming to him with a lot of stuff. Actually, the other night he was over here, and we did vocal tracks for a couple songs. So we're hoping to have an album. We have 7 songs right now, which was a lot more than I thought we were going to have. Because originally we started like, maybe we'll just do a single. We'll do like 2 songs. I was like, maybe we'll do an EP, like 4 or 5 songs. Now it's like 7 songs. I was like, geez, maybe we spread a couple more and make an album, But when we get together, the ideas start flowing, and it's really cool. Brian's somebody that I've worked with for many years. He's played drums on my first couple of albums, and I produced a couple of his albums. So we know each other. We kind of finish each other's sentences in that way. So
that's awesome. The spirit of creative collaboration, because it's great to be a solo artist, but then sometimes when you work with somebody else.
Yeah, it's definitely, you do different things and you have different perspectives when you're working with somebody else. When you're working with yourself, you tend to kind of maybe not do something that you would normally do with somebody else, but when you do it with somebody else, they might see it a different way than you do. And then they'll say, well, hey, if you do it like this, it'd be cool. And you wouldn't necessarily think of it that way. And they end up doing it that way. You're like, oh, that was really cool. So it's just a different perspective. And yeah, it's a lot of fun.
That's great. Well, last question before we get to your performance. Where can people find you on some of these projects online?
Well, my Facebook page is facebook.com/ChrisHludzik.96. That's my personal Facebook page, but for whatever reason, my music Facebook page isn't working right now. I have no idea why, but that's still up, and that's facebook.com/ChrisHludzik. But the easiest thing is if you go to ChrisHludzik.com, and that has links to everything. Where you can find my music, my YouTube page, everything. The Facebook page for the Brian and I's project, The Latter Day, is facebook.com/The Latter Day Music.
Okay.
And that's where you can find everything.
Well, great. Well, I look forward to hearing you play, and I'm glad you could be part of Lackawanna County Arts and Culture Live.
Good evening. My name is Chris Hludzik. I'm an original musician from northeastern Pennsylvania, and I'm going to be playing some original songs for you tonight. This is a song about writing songs. It's a thing called Wrote That One Too. Well, I composed many a tune here in my short time. Emotions, devotions, promises, truth, poetry sublime, verses full of heart, and choruses of hope, bridges full of doubt, and a catchy hook to help me cope, just like this. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. But there's only so much the words and chords can do, constructing simple melodies from detailed points of view, riding on a wave of sound to set my spirit free. Keep it all in time and tune to reveal the real me, because a tune in my head is a song in my heart. I've got it all figured out before I even start. And some might say that it's relevant, but it sure isn't new. Just ask any serenader and they'll say, I wrote that one too. And what do I have to show for myself? What do I have to show for myself? Just a song, just a song, just a song, just a song, just a song. Just these songs. This next song is off my very first solo album, which was entitled Years in Rock, and it's a song called Live. You're moving on without me, but I wanna come too. You say don't worry, I'll be around, but how do I know if it's true? They say that weather changes moods, and it's been raining an awful lot. You act like you know what you want, but you don't even know what you got. So what should I do? While you shuffle your thoughts through your head, you say live. Live or be dead. fair enough for you to try new things. Come out of your corner swinging in life's boxing ring. It seems clear enough for you to hold your own, but please make up your mind, or I'll just have to go it alone. So what should I do while you show your guts through your hair? You say you live, you never be dead, dead, dead. You never be dead, dead, dead. Never be dead, dead, dead. Never be dead, dead, dead. Ever since you left me, I've been able to see you were not what I thought you were, and you could never be. I often think about you and the advice that you would give. And boy, I'm glad I listened, because I'm glad I started to live. So what do you do? Just shuffle your thoughts through your head. You better live. Or you'll wind up dead, dead, dead. You'll never be dead, dead, dead. You'll never be dead, dead, dead. You'll never be dead, dead. And that was a song called Live. For anybody who's just joining in, my name is Chris Hludzik. I'm an original musician from northeastern Pennsylvania. If you like what you hear, you can find my original music on chrishludzik.bandcamp.com. This is another original song from a side project that I'm part of called The Latter Day. And this was from an album that we did back in 2006, and we're currently working on new material. But this is an older song. And it's a thing about the have and have-nots of the world. It's called The Powers That Be. Everybody's got their money, and everybody's got their guns. Fat cats keep getting fatter, and the poor dogs have to run from the powers that be. They are not to be. You can't be richer than the first man. You can't be poorer than the last. You can't be slower than an old man who's nearly at his last. Somewhere in a golden tower, the fat cat takes his rest, while you're in the streets struggling just to keep up with the rest. Cause everybody's got their money, and everybody's got their guns. Fat cats keep getting fatter, and the poor dogs have to run from the powers that be. Cause they are not to be. New silent footsteps snap as you try to climb, hanging on to every moment, trying not to get left behind. The airwaves are getting crowded, keeps getting harder to get to you. But try to hear what I've got to say. Hold together and you'll pull through. 'Cause everybody's got their money and everybody's got their guns. Fat cats keep getting fatter and the poor dogs that you run from the powers that be. 'Cause they are not to be. Well, everyone's got a price tag, everyone's for sale, and everyone wants to be the chief, but just who's gonna hail to the powers that be? 'Cause they are not to be. To the powers that be, 'cause you are not to be. That was a song called The Powers That Be. I'm going to do a song now from an EP that I put out a few years ago called Another Last Stand. And it's a thing called All You. All you need to find is your place. All you need to grow is the space. All you need to show is a trace of emotion. All you have to sing is a song. All you have to write is what's wrong. Is alone. What a notion. But it's easier said than done. And you'll always be on the run. You're never gonna be the one to ride into the sun. Time. All you need to solve all your crimes. All you need to speak is the rhyme and a little reason. All you have to follow is a star. All you have to be is what you are. And when you need to change, it isn't hard. Change with the season. But it's easier said than done. And you'll always be on the run. You're never gonna be the one to ride into the sun. in the dawn. And you're lost beyond the run. You're never gonna be the one to ride into the sun. To ride into the sun. To ride into the sun. Well, come on, don't you wanna ride into the sun? Whoa, whoa, whoa. That song is called All You. This next song is from my second album, which was called Dissonance Meets Harmony. And it's a song about growing up. It's a thing called No Chorus. When I was just a kid, I never thought of what I did, or what I had to answer for, or that I had to even up the score. I was just a child, unaware of my denial, things I didn't really know, running from my own shadow. And life was just a dream that you had every night. And with the break of each new day, all of your problems seem to go away. Then I entered a new phase, some of my most confusing days. Not a boy, not quite a man, it felt like no one could understand. Then I got a little older, realized the world was colder than I thought that it could be, a train wreck called reality. Now life felt like a scheme, things never worked out right. With each passing day, the darkness took the light away. Now I'm just a man, and I do the best I can, but it's never good enough, and as far as luck, I've got it tough. So on and on I go into these things I'll never know, searching for my reason to be, whatever that might be. And life's still nothing but a dream, a never-ending fight. And with each passing day I wonder, will an answer come my way? And that song is called No Chorus. Thank you very much for anybody who's just joining in. My name is Chris Hludzik. I'm an original musician from northeastern Pennsylvania. You can find out more about me on chrishludzik.com. I want to thank Maureen for having me tonight on the program. And I want to thank everybody who's watching. Hope you're all safe and healthy. This is a song from an EP I released back in 2014 called There Was No More. And it's about a couple of bands I was in when I was younger. It's a thing called Northwest Song. Crank it up real loud to get the message through. And if you don't seem too proud, they might believe in you. Just don't wash your hair and tear some holes in your jeans. Just cast a blank stare, make them feel what you think you've been. But we weren't stars, we wouldn't last that long. Just kids with guitars trying to play those Northwest songs. So young and so bold, we thought we knew it all. In a world so cold, with our backs to the wall. Distortion and gain to make it all come down. Frustration and pain, like a crazy in a Northwest town. But we weren't stars, we wouldn't last that long. Just kids with guitars trying to play those Northwest songs. Can you feel the pain? Can you feel the shame? Does it feel the same as everything else? But we'll insist it's a new sound. We'll try and cover some new ground, even though it's the same ground that's been trampled by everyone else. But we weren't stars, no, we wouldn't last that long. Just kids with guitars trying to play those Northwest songs. And that one was called Northwest Song. This next song is my most recent single, and it's a thing called Hear Me Out. Well, I'm tired of always talking, but no one ever hears. I feel like I've been drowning in a sea of wasted years. The echoes like the silence, but never can break through. And I'm left alone to wonder what else there is to do. It don't matter if I whisper, and I'd rather not shout. I just want someone to hear me out. Pouring out my heart to try and reach some souls, but attention isn't permanent once they crawl into their holes. When everyone has stories that bring grown men to tears, no one really has the time for your hopes, your dreams, or fears. It don't matter if I whisper, and I'd rather not shout. I just want someone to hear me out. Well, I'm not complicated. You could call me plug and play. 'Cause what I feel is more important isn't how I sound, but what I have to say. Well, they say it's now or never. Never might as well be now. No, I'm full of good intention. I might just have to take a bow. I don't have too much time here, My expression is on a leash, so I guess I'll have to speak up. I can no longer hold my peace. It don't matter if I whisper, and I'd rather not shout. I just want someone to hear me out. It don't matter if I whisper, and I'd rather not shout. I just want someone to hear me out. And that one was called Hear Me Out. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you to Maureen and Lackawanna County Arts and Culture for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity. I hope everyone is enjoying themselves. I hope everyone's staying safe. This is a song from my second solo album, which was called Dissonance Meets Harmony. And it's a thing called For Mercy. And that song was called For Mercy. And I have one final song that I would like to do. And it's a bit of a song of hope. It's a thing called Encouragement. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Chris Hludzik. You can check me out at chrishludzik.com for more information. You claim that the grass is greener, despite the fact that you work so hard. But don't turn the color of envy, just be happy that you have a yard. And don't waste time dwelling on failure, instead work towards being the best, or else you'll be labeled a has-been before you've had any success. Just look towards the light and find purpose in your being, and don't give up the fight in spite of what you're seeing, 'cause it never comes as easy as it seems. And remember that reality can't exist without dreams. Thank you very much. My name is Chris Hludzik. Good night.
Thanks, Chris, for that great set. And we also, of course, want to thank Paul and Beth for joining us. I learned so much every week on this show, meeting all these great presenters, and we hope you do too. And I just want to give a quick shout out, as always, to Electric City Television, who's our partner on this, and without whose help, we wouldn't be able to bring these to you. Also, Jess Mione does a great job on our promotion. She designs and puts up the weekly speakers on our Facebook page. If you don't already follow us, you can find us at Lackawanna County Arts and Culture Department on Facebook. We also have a Twitter account at Arts Lackawanna. And thank you for watching, and we hope you can join us again. Have a great night.